Hey guys, so we are trying some more new DIOR makeup. They are really coming out with the new releases fast and furious. I just recently tried their new Forever Skin Glow foundation, and we're actually going to be trying this again. I'm going to be trying it with a very moisturizing thick primer because I want to see how this sits on top of that and if it helps the dryness that I experienced in my wear test. And if you missed that wear test, I will link it down below in my description box. But long story short, I really enjoyed the older version of the Skin Glow foundation, and I was not that pleased with the new version. So I did want to keep trying it. I know sometimes you got to work with the foundation. So we're going to be doing that today. And I also purchased two of their new trios eyeshadows. So this is one. This one is 833 Mineral Rose, and the other one I picked up is 733 Coral Glow. So we're going to be playing with these. I guess I'm going to have to mix the two of them up and apply them to both of my eyes. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I also did pick up a loose powder of theirs, and this is basically like a loose highlighter. It is their DIOR Forever Cushion Powder, and they have a whole line of just regular loose powders in this like cushion style packaging. But this is in the shade Mineral Glow, and I purchased all of this off of Selfridges, and it just really intrigued me. But anyway, we will get to that when we get to the highlighter portion of this video. But let's go ahead and start with this DIOR Forever Skin Glow foundation again. So I have it in the shade 2N. And what I'm going to do is apply some of my favorite primer, which is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. I keep wanting to say it's very rich, but it is a rich in texture kind of primer, but it doesn't just sort of sit on your face. So I don't feel like it interferes with any makeup application. It is really a wonderful primer. So I'm going to just dig some out. And I have very dry, eczema-prone skin. So I have all of my skincare down, which includes a serum and an oil and a moisturizer and an SPF. So I am putting this on top of all of my other skincare. So I'm just gonna warm it up in my fingers and massage in. This is such a good primer, and it has the most refreshing wake-up kind of scent to it. I just love it. All right, and next, going in with the Forever Skin Glow foundation, and my hands are slippery from the primer. Ooh, it's hard to get that cap off. I'm gonna pump out 2 pumps onto the back of my hand. That's how much I used. Yeah, that's how much I used in my foundation wear test. So I used the Sonia G Jumbo Base Brush for application. I'm wondering if I should use the same one or maybe try something different. I do like to use brushes. You know what? I'm going to try the new Wayne Goss, his holiday brush. It's gigantic. Actually, for reference, here is the Jumbo Base Brush, which is fairly large, and this is a bit bigger than that. It's also got a lot more surface area. So this is a great brush for cream products. Wayne even talked about how you can apply body makeup with this, which I think is great, but I'm gonna try this with the foundation, and I'm just gonna pick up a little bit and just blend it in. Oh yeah, wow, this brush, that was really fast. Covers a lot of surface area, this guy. So far it's pretty much kind of looking and behaving the same. It is their Skin Glow foundation, so it is the version that is supposed to be a little bit more, you know, glowy on the skin. It pretty much is just like a skin-like kind of finish, and I feel like that's what I'm getting right now. I have to say, the Vitamin Enriched Face Base, I feel like my skin feels better, and that was another kind of note that I made when I did my wear test with this initially, is that my skin, maybe not right off the bat, but my skin felt like a little tight as I wore it throughout the day, and I can already tell that my skin feels a lot better with this face base on. So let me go ahead and finish applying this. I think at least upon first inspection, this doesn't look quite as dry as it did. And that's, you know, that's really to be expected when you're gonna start with a primer like this. But we'll do a little check-in at the end of the day just to see how this foundation wore and how everything else I'm trying kind of wore. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to the point where we're gonna play with this highlight. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply some, you know, blush, bronzer, all that kind of good stuff, and I'll be right back. All right, now let's take a close look at this DIOR Forever Cushion packaging. So it is like a cushion type packaging. It's got this quilted puffy lid here. And then when you open it up, it really just, it looks like it's gonna be a cushion foundation of some sort. It does come sealed. So when you open up the flap, you will see a seal, but I went ahead and took that off, and underneath what you'll see is like a netting and then some loose powder. So here's a swatch, and I'm not even sure if you're gonna be able to see it on the back of my hand, but you know, I have not applied this to my face yet, but by looking at this swatch and by feeling the product, it is really not what I expected. When you look at it in this packaging, there's a pink tint to it. I think it's gonna be iridescent. And then I spied the micro glitter and I thought, oh, okay, this is not really gonna be an everyday kind of highlight for me. But when I swatched it, all I could see was micro glitter. I didn't even get a sense of the pinkiness in the powder. So I am really curious to see what this looks like on the skin, on my face. So let me go ahead and grab a highlight brush. It does come with this puff, but I don't necessarily want to put this like all over my face like I would a normal powder. So I'm gonna go in with a brush, and I'm gonna grab my Sonia G Sculpt 2 brush. This is her smaller fan brush. And actually, let me just make sure it's clean. I'm gonna wipe it off on a microfiber towel. Wow, this is really just, just micro glitter. It's not even that micro, it's kind of like a midi glitter. It's not that chunky, but it's not super fine either. I'm actually curious why they didn't come out with this for holiday. I feel like this would have been really appropriate for holiday, but for a spring collection, yeah, I think this is part of their spring collection. I just find that this, I don't know, spring to me is very like glowy, but in a very smooth kind of way. Not too glittery, but anyway, let's go ahead and try this. Oh God. Oh, it's just micro glitter. I see a little bit of this base powder, this like pinkiness, but that isn't actually very iridescent at all. It's not very shimmery. I just have like micro glitters. I'm gonna zoom in. Hopefully you can see it. It's very difficult to catch micro glitter and slight iridescence, you know, while I'm filming, but hopefully you guys can see it. I'm just gonna zoom in right here to my cheek. I feel like I'm gonna have glitter on my person for days after this. All right, I'll just even things out by tapping a little bit of this on this side, but okay, I'm not a fan of this at all. It's just not my thing. If you're into glitter, I think you may really like this, but it's too, I don't know, it's just too sparse, I guess. Not my thing, not my thing. Okay, let me go ahead and draw in some eyebrows, and then we'll move on to the eyeshadows. Okay, and now for these eyeshadow trios. All right, so I have the two. First, we have 833 Mineral Rose. Here's a close-up of the palette. So we have 3 shades in there, and they're all Baked Gelée formula. And here's some swatches. So I swatched from top to bottom. You'll see them going from left to right. And what you'll also notice is that there's like a really beautiful metallic shift, a little bit of iridescence to the top and the bottom shade, just really, really pretty. And then here is Coral Glow. So here is a close-up of the palette. And again, we have 3 shades. They're of the Baked Gelée formula. And here are the swatches for those. So again, top to bottom, you'll see them left to right. And the same deal as the Mineral Rose. They're all have like a metallic kind of sheen to them, and there's a little bit of an iridescent shift to the top and the bottom shade. And one thing I noticed when I was swatching these, the bottom shade I thought, you know, looked very, very similar in both palettes. But when I swatched them, the one in the Rose palette had a little bit of a peachy kind of shift to it. And then the one in the Coral Glow palette had a little bit more of like a cooler toned pinky shift to it. And I thought that was really interesting. I I probably, because I'm a very literal person, I probably would have swapped the two bottom shades, you know, in the palettes with each other, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's just a small observation. I'm gonna try and use, I was gonna say, I'm gonna try and use all 6 shades as much as possible, but I think what I'll do is just use the rose on one eye and the coral glow on the other. Yeah, I say let's do that. So let's start with the mineral rose. Again, this is 833. I am going to grab a Sonia G Worker 1 brush because these are a nice natural haired brush. They pick up like Bake Gelée formula type products very, very nicely. So I'm gonna start with that. And I'm just gonna go into the top shade here and, ooh, picked up a lot of product. And I'm gonna start the inner corner here and work it over towards the center of my lid. It's a very pretty color once you get it on. I hope you guys can see like the little iridescence there. But it's a little bit hard to blend. I have to say, I feel like I'm like pressing the product down and it's not really, you know, like blending out, but it is very pretty. Wow. Ooh, I really like that shade. Okay, I'm just gonna take the same brush and go into the center shade here, which is a little deeper. This definitely has at least a satin sheen, but it's not quite as metallic as the top or the bottom shades. But there is a little something going on there. And I'm mostly curious if this shade is deep enough to give me like the dimension that I like on the outer corner there. Wow, talk about talk about springy. Nothing like pink eyeshadow for me to like indicate spring makeup is here. That's pretty. There's a little bit of depth to that shade. Not too much though. Definitely not as much as I feel like what it looks like in the pan. These two shades are actually very, very close. You probably saw that in the swatches. They're pretty close, and I feel like they look fairly different in the pan. Interesting. Okay. Nevertheless, I think that's really pretty. I like that. Okay, let me grab a pencil brush. I've got the Sonia G Pencil Pro brush. I'm gonna go into the bottom light shade here and just add this to the inner corners here. Very easy to create like a very subtle like ombre eyeshadow look with these 3 shades. All right, so that is Mineral Rose. Very, very nice. Let's move on to Coral Glow. All right, so I've got a fresh Sonia G Worker 1 brush, and here we've got Coral Glow, and I'm just gonna do basically essentially the same thing. So I'm gonna go into this top shade here. This shade is definitely harder to pick up versus the Mineral Rose shades, and that's interesting. Let's see how it looks on the lid here. Ooh, that's fainter. Let me see. I may have to try a different brush. But this Sonia G Worker 1 brush is usually foolproof when it comes to these shadows. Yeah, it's very faint, and I'm just not really picking up that much product. So let me try a different brush. I've got my Esom W23 brush. This is sable hair, and this is a great type of brush for these kinds of shadows, these Bake Gelée shadows, which can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to pick up. Oh, that's a little bit better. That's a little bit better, yeah. These shadows can also be used wet, so let me try that. I'm trying it all today. I'm going to use the Chantecaille Rose de May spray. You could, of course, just use water. I just don't have any water near me, so I'm just going to spritz my brush a couple times. I'm going to go into this pan now. That gives me a lot more pigment. Now I feel like the shine and the pigmentation of this shadow is very similar to the Mineral Rose Dry. If you're interested in picking this trio up, or if you have this, I would suggest using this top shadow wet. At least for me, I feel like this pan is just pressed a little bit harder. Let's go back to that Sonia G Worker 1 brush, and I'm gonna go into this center shade here. Ooh, this shade is so pretty. That slight metallic sheen that it has really makes it a very charming color. You know, in here it just looks like it's going to be a terracotta type of shade, but so much more interesting on the lid. Ooh, pretty. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, pick up this bottom shadow and just add it to the inner corner. All right, so there is Coral Glow, and here is Mineral Rose. And the only shade that I had slight issues with is this top shade in Coral Glow. But I really like these eye looks that I got. If you're into like a very subtle ombre or like a monochromatic type of look, I think you'll really like these trios. I really like that they're baked gelée. Very, very pretty. All right, let me go ahead and finish up my makeup and I'll be right back. So I have had this DIOR, what is this called? This is called the Stick Glow. It is a hydrating blush balm, healthy glow effect, and I have it in the shade Coral Glow. I feel like did they just come out with something similar to this, or did they bring this back out? Because I got this and it was limited edition, I believe, maybe last year sometime, maybe for last spring, and I did not like it on my cheeks. It was very, very light, and as you guys know, I prefer a strongish kind of blush, but I really liked it on my lips. So I'm gonna use this today on my lips. It's a little big for lip application, but thankfully it's very, very sheer, as you can tell. There's just a little bit of tint that starts to develop the longer it's on your lips. And this formula is fantastic for lip balm. Again, I didn't really like it on the cheeks, but anyway, I thought I'd use this today. It's just been sitting here. I really enjoy it, but I haven't used it in a while. Okay, a quick recap. This is definitely a no-go for me. Every time I look at my face, all I see are these little glitters. Not for me. Definitely not for me. Again, if you're into little micro glitters, you may really enjoy this, so not for me. These trios I think are very pretty. I think they're very, very spring. Pink, coral, like it doesn't get much more spring than that. They just need another one that's like lilac or something. Actually, that would have been really nice. Oh, like a lilac trio? How pretty would that have been? Anyway, and again, the only shadow I had issues with was that top one from the Coral Glow, this guy. Otherwise, all of these other shadows I feel like performed really nicely. Really, really beautiful. They went on easily. I did use, you know, kind of dense, stiffer brushes, and I think they performed really nicely. But I am going to be back towards the end of the day just to let you know how this new Skin Glow, newly reformulated Forever Skin Glow foundation wore on my skin this time after putting down a more moisturizing primer. So let's go ahead and take a look at how it turned out. Hey guys, it is the end of my day, and I actually took a little bit of footage before it got too dark because I wanted to show you in daylight what this foundation looks like, because it is much, much improved in terms of that kind of like roughness and like flaking that I was seeing when I first tried this foundation. So a very rich, moisturizing primer is kind of the game changer for someone with dry skin like myself and this foundation. So I'm glad that it looks a lot better in terms of that crazy texture that I was seeing on my forehead and like on my cheeks here. My skin also doesn't like feel tight. So yeah, this was really important. But what I will say is it still oxidized, unfortunately. So if I want to use this foundation, I may get a 1N and C, or a 1C and see if that, you know, doesn't look too bad, because it does look like it doesn't even match. I think in this lighting it looks fine, but in my footage where I'm standing in front of my window, I think you can see like the pretty big difference between my face and my neck. So that is definitely an improvement from my first wear test. I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I tried this, because you know, primer and skin prep really can make all the difference. I think we saw that with, there was a foundation, the Lisa Eldridge foundation. I did try that without prepping my skin with something moisturizing, and it's not like it did this, but it definitely looked a little bit dry on my skin. It was not my favorite, but as soon as I put this down, it was like, It was like amazing. That foundation is amazing. But anyway, that is, I guess, like my updated, my updated take on the newly reformulated Forever Skin Glow foundation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.